as we go on the air this evening, we have new information about the HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Carcasses and lust. Not in the same sentence necessarily, but weirdly, I'm starting to think he might have a weird thing for animals. I'm really starting to get that vibe from him. Now, to give you a sense of the first part of this, and then we'll get into the lust demons part, the important context is that someone got a hold of his diaries. His diaries. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s diaries. And a book's being written with a lot of the information from them, as you can imagine, is pretty crazy. But as a little indication of how crazy it's going to get, could you cut to the version where you can see the tabs, Cole? The URL here is irish-star.com/entertainment/RFK-junior-dead-raccoon-penis. Okay? So that's where we're going. That's where we're going right now. You ready? Let's do it. Vince is reporting in this new book. I think it's like The Rise. Yeah, The Fall and Rise. Oh, it's the opposite. The Fall and Rise is the book that's coming out. And Vince's reporting uses the journals to paint a detailed picture of Kennedy's personal struggles, family tensions, and long-standing interest in wildlife. That doesn't really give it justice. This is more than an interest. We've seen him trying to eat some sort, or jokingly putting a carcass in his mouth, and then the dumping of a bear carcass, and just too many carcasses. One entry dated November 11, 2011 describes Kennedy pulling over on a highway while driving with his family after spotting a dead raccoon. Quote, "I was standing in front of my parked car on I-684, cutting the penis out of a road-killed raccoon, thinking about how weird some of my family members have turned out to be," he wrote. "My kids waited patiently in the car." So he's sitting there cutting the penis off of a dead raccoon while he's thinking about how weird other people are. So you're probably thinking, well, what would he need the penis of a dead raccoon for? And is he Jeffrey Dahmer? Dahmer was the one who kept the penises, right? Well, it's a very good explanation to study them later. What studying needs to be done? We know it's an animal penis. Like, what are you studying? Quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. It's completely free, and it's the simplest way to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button, and then also, whatever you're thinking or some random statement, drop it in the comments. That helps algorithmically, and click the like button. Back to the video. Let me tell you this again. Our current HHS secretary wrote in his own diary that while he was thinking about how strange his other family members were, he was actively cutting off the penis of a raccoon, a dead one, so that he could examine it later for further insights. If I told you, today I have a story for you about a man who once took home with him a dead bear cub, thinking he was going to use it for something, then realized he had to get on a flight, so he dumped it in Central Park. And then he got in some creek that he knew to be dangerous because he wanted to show that he could bathe in a dangerous creek. And then he had a brain worm that gobbled up, munched its way through his brain. And then he cut off the penis for further examination of a dead raccoon. If I didn't tell you who it was, what would you think I was building towards? And then he killed his entire family, right? Like, you would think I was building towards, and that's the story of the serial killer. But it's the HHS secretary. The same guy, we don't have the sample right now, Kayla's not here, but the same guy who, has other notable stories. We don't need to get into them because we don't have time. Instead, we have to get to the next thing that was found in his diaries, which is about his lust demons. Kennedy's relationships with women were also highlighted in the book, as the pages recount how he contended with what he called his lust demons. The book alleges how he cheated on his first wife, Emily Black, with his second wife, Richardson, and then his second with his third and his current wife, actress Cheryl Hines, along with numerous infidelities throughout. So we've talked about this before. He had like a Rolodex of what he described as mistresses, and he would have to keep. There was a certain letter, I always forget it, but there's some, you know how like if you want everyone from your company to be right next to each other in your contacts in your phone, you'll put like A dash and then their name, so that whenever you put A, everyone from your company comes up, or they're all in that same portion when it's alphabetically organized. He'd do that. So like T or whatever, then that would be all of his, or probably A, honestly. It was like ass, is how he thought of it. And then they would all be categorized. So it was nice and easy for him to quickly speed dial his quote unquote mistresses, or all the different people he was cheating with. And we're going to get into what he sees as his lust demons. But can I just ask, how, as his third partner, third wife, right, do you trust that there won't be a fourth that he cheats with? Like, if he cheated on his first wife with his second wife and his second wife with his third wife, don't you think it'd be very easy for that to continue to his third wife to his fourth wife? But how do you ever have trust for someone who does that in a monogamous relationship? I don't know. It also describes a sort of conquest log kept in the back of his diary, which included names of women and numbers 1 to 10, which denoted different sexual acts. According to the book. This is sociopath stuff. Lots of people cheat, lots of people sleep around. Okay, whatever. But this way that he organizes his thoughts, both the phone and then the diary, it's a ranking system, a log, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then denoted different sexual acts. Like he remembered them by the position they were in. Sometimes there were as many as 3 entries per day. Hold up. Wait, hey, 1 second. Let me get my chair back up. Did I just read that correctly? Sometimes there were as many as 3 entries per day, including where the word victory was added with exclamation marks. He also, oh my gosh, referred to some random sexual encounters as muggings. Got mugged on the way home. I've got to do better. During a trip in 1999, he wrote that he made it through a difficult week without acting out. I'm proud of myself because the sirens were on every rock out there. I don't know what's going on. Are rocks people? Are rocks women? What are the sirens on what rocks? And then he made it through a difficult week without acting out. Okay, victory, or whatever victory is for. And then he describes as it getting mugged. But he means like, I was on the way home and you just started having sex with somebody? Is that, I thought I've known enough people who have known enough people and have lived enough life to know that sure, some people are very sexually active, fine, as long as you're not violating your commitments, which he was doing, and you're being safe, okay. But I've never heard someone speak about sex like he does, where it's uncontrollable, where he's on the way. Well, how does that even happen? Like you bump into a homeless person and you just start having sex in their... What? Or there's like a crossing guard and then you just quickly have sex with them. I'm trying to think about the taxi driver. how do you get mugged? Oh no, I've said mugged too many times today. Ew. How do you get mugged on the way home? I really don't understand that. But then this part I'm just fascinated by. Sometimes there were as many as 3 entries per day, and the word victory. And I can't tell if victory is like when he was happy he didn't cheat, or victory like completion, victory, something like that. So that's only 2 anecdotes. I'm sure there's going to be more, and we'll talk about it more because why not? Obviously, but that gives you a sense of what's in his diaries. Now, let me quickly make sure I'm not missing anything from the super chats. Okay, I'll check in on those in a second. But let me just say, the whole diary situation, it's stories like this, not that I have anything like this in any diaries, but that make me very skeptical of the concept. If I want to write something this, which I never would, but this intimate, it's maybe for the soothing feeling of writing something out, and then that thing is getting burned. The fact that you would leave this many things in a written document, in a diary, is stunning to me. I know partners aren't supposed to read each other's diaries, but how easy would it have been for one of his wives to open this up and flip through and see all of these different explanations of his sex demons? Lust demons. I guess if he weren't him, and even with him, I feel kind of bad. I hate that people have this sort of relationship with sex when it can just be a beautiful way that sometimes you use for fun with people you don't know that well. Sometimes you use once you're in a relationship for a really beautiful aspect of connection and intimacy. And it feels sort of wholesome as opposed to something he's constantly battling with and a demon in his articulation. Wow.